Trump won.
Okay, right. Welcome, puppies and kittens, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is being recorded. This is a debate between Conan and Chase Avior, both of which I will unmute right now. Let's have a look. Right, you guys are both unmuted. I think you guys were both okay with this being recorded. I think that was established yesterday or the day before. I think that Chase, do you want to check your audio, Chase?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, perfectly clear. Conan, you want to check yours?
Can you hear me?
Certainly
Yes.
can, sir. So I think the debate proposition was that Chase, if I'm wrong at any point, please do correct me. You were going to take the position that is it eating meat should be illegal, something to that effect.
Meat should be illegal.
Meat should be illegal. So, like the existence of meat.
Well, I mean, yeah, technically what I'm talking about is like killing animals for meat, but
Okay,
however you want to
Yes.
phrase it.
that's fine. And Conan, you will be obviously opposing that one, right?
Yes, I believe that killing animals and consumption production of meat should be illegal.
Okay, so I'm gonna butt out and just let you guys get on with it. We don't have a like formal structure. We're not gonna do like 30-minute opening statements or something like that. So which one of you wants to get at it first?
Yeah, I've got some questions if that's all right. It should take about 5 minutes just to get a sense of like where you're coming from and what your moral thoughts are in general. And then see if we can kind of agree on a few things, hopefully, and then take it from there. You can ask me questions if you want after that. Is that okay?
I mean, sure.
Okay, great. Um, and how do I pronounce your name? Is it Conan or Conan?
Conan, it's okay. It is a long story why it has two ends, but Conan is okay.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so I guess my first question would be, do you think, okay, so imagine that there's a person standing in the room and they're facing the other direction and they're just minding their own business, not hurting anybody. Would you consider it unethical for someone to go up and kick that person in the back really hard?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I agree. Cool. We have something in common. That's good. Now, my next question would be, do you think it would be even worse to shoot that person in the back of the head?
Yes.
I agree. Cool. And the reason I agree with that is because I think that kicking somebody would give them a bruise, but killing somebody would, take away their entire existence, and it was totally unneeded and stuff like that. So, okay. So the next question would be, do you think that it is unethical to kick a dog? Now, the dog is facing the other way and isn't hurting anybody, and you don't need to kick it. You just get some kind of pleasure from kicking dogs. Would you say that that's unethical?
Anything you do to a dog is amoral.
Anything you do to a dog is amoral.
Yes.
So you're saying that I can kick a dog and that there's nothing unethical or immoral about that.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So this is where we disagree. So I would say that it is unethical to kick a dog because the dog, again, in this situation, is not attacking anybody or anything. There's no need to kick the dog. It's a nice dog. They're just minding their own business. It would cause harm to that dog. The dog is a sentient being with a brain and a nervous system who feels pain and desires not to be kicked. And so it would seem like it's just causing unnecessary suffering. Do you still hold your position that kicking dogs is okay?
Yes, it is okay. It is amoral, and I would hold the position, but I don't want to. I don't want to stop you for asking further questions. But I would think that anything you do other than dying is unnecessary.
Okay. Well, I don't really know how to proceed from there because usually people, even people who eat animals, will agree with me that kicking a dog is unethical because of the reasons I mentioned, that dogs feel pain and we don't need to kick them. And in fact, we have laws, at least where I live here in America, we have laws that give dogs the right to not be kicked, unless they're attacking somebody and you need to help someone. But yeah, it's illegal to kick dogs in America, and it's also illegal to shoot a dog. My next question would have been, just so we can finish out the hypothetical scenario so that everybody can kind of understand how this would have played out if you had agreed with me that kicking dogs is wrong. I would have then asked, okay, do you think it would then, by the logic we had set up before with kicking a human versus shooting a human, and how shooting and killing a human is actually worse, more harmful, more unethical than kicking a human, that based on that logic, it would seem to follow that if kicking a dog is unethical because it causes harm, then killing a dog, even if it's quick and painless, would be even more harmful for the same reasons, that it takes away their entire existence, needlessly kills them, they have a preference to stay alive, and so it would be worse to kill the dog than to kick the dog. It causes more harm than just the bruise that results from kicking a dog. And then my next question would be, do you think it's wrong to kick a pig? A pig is not who's not hurting anybody. And most meat eaters agree with me that kicking pigs is wrong. Because pigs feel pain and we don't need to be kicking them, and that it's needless animal cruelty. And then my next question would be, okay, so then by the logic we already set up, do you think it would be worse and more unethical and more harmful to kill a pig? And most meat eaters actually agree with me when I set it up like that, because they realize that by their own logic, kicking a pig is wrong, so therefore killing a pig is even worse because, again, it takes away their whole life. I personally, like, if I had to choose between getting kicked or getting killed, I think, like most people, I would choose to get kicked rather than get killed. Even if my death was quick and painless, I'd rather have the bruise from the kicking rather than getting shot in the back of the head. And I think the same kind of thing applies to animals. And then I would just say, to finish this up, I appreciate you listening. I would just say that because we have laws protecting dogs from being kicked, and that we have laws protecting dogs from being shot in the back of the head, that we should also have laws protecting pigs from being kicked, and I think we do, and that as a further extension of that, we should also have laws protecting pigs from being stabbed in the throat when we don't need to do this to them. But yeah, so this would just be an example of speciesism. So usually people will say, be nice to dogs, but it's okay to kill a pig. But that would be speciesism because there's no legitimate difference between dogs and pigs. There's differences, but the similarities between these individuals outweigh their differences. They both feel pain and pleasure and they want to live. They have a brain and a nervous system. They're sentient individuals. And then, but what you're talking about, how it seems to be that you think that only humans matter. So it's wrong to kick or kill a human, but it's not wrong to kick or kill a dog or a pig or a chimpanzee or an elephant, it sounds like. So that would be speciesism in the sense of saying that humans matter, but animals don't. And we can essentially torture animals, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, okay, yeah, do you have any questions for me?
No, except why did you go on such a long conversation with me? Established that logic that you said. I did not agree with that. So if you want, I can go a little bit on my moral views, so they could be a bit clearer to you if you would like that. Before we tackle the main issue
Yeah.
about legality of meat.
Okay, yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
sorry, I don't want to be one of those annoying mods that just chops in all the time, but Conan, he asked you three questions. I don't for a minute expect you to have them all in mind, which is why I posted in the VC text. Maybe you should chase, ask them one at a time and get his response. I think that would be fair.
The questions I already asked.
Yes, if you could repeat them one at a time, because it's not fair to like bombard him. Like, we didn't interrupt you or anything, but just ask him one at a time, if you wouldn't mind.
The same okay, you want me to repeat the questions I already asked to see if he still holds that position?
Ask
Uh,
question one, let him respond, then do question two, question three, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there was no need to ask those further questions because he didn't even agree that kicking dogs is wrong. So I just let the rest of it go so that everybody could see how that scenario plays out, but it's irrelevant because he thinks that torturing dogs is okay. But if you want me to repeat all those questions, I can do that again. So do you think it's wrong
Well,
to
if you
kick a
don't
human?
require answers to your questions, then I guess it wouldn't be relevant.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm trying to explain what my moral theory is so that he can understand the position that I'm coming from, so that he understands what this is about. But also, I thought we were going to have a debate without a moderator.
Yes, SD,
Well, I
your
mean,
help is
I'll
not
butt out if you want.
help is not
Sure.
required at this point. Thank you.
Okie dokie.
Yeah. So just to satisfy the room, yes, shooting a dog is amoral, kicking a pig is amoral, and shooting a pig is amoral. Okay, so let me explain my morality a bit. Uh, I believe
And
that
just real quick, you said amoral, not immoral, right? So all of
yes,
these things.
amoral,
Okay.
amoral. Okay, so I believe that morality uh, comes from evolution, that it is evolutionary trait which developed in humans. Uh, I basically believe in evolutionary psychology, and I believe that morality served the purpose of protecting humans from other humans. And it was necessary to regulate the relationship within the troop, uh, and because law of mutual aid, which is older uh, form of group interaction, was insufficient due to unique human properties of being basically so intelligent and by extension of so powerful that any individual can kill any other individual inside a troop. So to regulate the in-troop behavior, morality was evolved. I can go deeper into minutia of how I believe that morality works, but I think that is unnecessary at this point.
Okay. Um, so, well, I mean, like, I don't know really where to go from here if you think that torturing dogs is okay. Do you think that we need to eat animal products to be healthy?
I don't believe that we need to do anything other than die. I mean, there is okay. Can we just go to uh, legality of eating meat? I think that
Sure.
would be that other questions can arise from that one. So
Okay.
this is your proposal to make meat illegal. It is obviously legal now. So why would you like to make that? Why would you like to make meat illegal?
I would like to make meat illegal for the same reason that we have kicking dogs is illegal, that it causes massive unnecessary suffering to sentient beings who did nothing wrong.
Is that it?
Well, yeah, so like in the same way that you don't want to be killed, dogs and pigs don't want to be killed, and we don't need to kill humans or dogs or pigs. So causing massive unnecessary suffering is, in my viewpoint, unethical. In most people's viewpoints, is unethical. I think that since we can just live off a plant-based diet and be healthy and happy and live nice long lives, that we should not pay for animals to have their heads cut off. I'm a
I
human
would
rights act I'm a human rights activist also, so I fight for all kinds of human rights issues, and I just extend that to animals as well.
okay. That is a lot of to unravel in that sentence. So let's begin first that I would grant that eating meat is not necessary to be healthy. Uh, any properly prescribed diet can result in health. So I think that would you agree with that? That things like Mediterranean diet, New Nordic diet, and several others, which are prescribed, among other things, by World Health Organization, achieve the same health benefits as um vegan diet. Would you agree with that statement?
I would say that there are many diets which a human can survive off of.
Okay, we were discussing health, but okay, so we will remove the health proposition from the table because it is mute.
Okay, so you do, just to clarify, you do agree that humans can be healthy on a vegan diet?
Yes, I just said that.
Okay, cool.
So the next thing was causing unnecessary suffering, right? No, no.
Yeah.
Before that, let's touch kicking the dog law. I believe that law has no right to be passed. It serves no purpose. There is 5 purposes for which laws are given, which is to prevent people from harming each other, to prevent people from harming themselves, to prevent people from harming the state, from for donation purposes, uh, and for oh, what was the 5th one? Yes, the 5th one was morality principle. So any under this, do you believe that kicking the dog was made from a morality principle?
I believe that the reason we have laws against kicking dogs and the reason that in general we have social norms where people think that it's unethical to kick dogs is because we evolved as a social species that developed empathy and the ability for critical thinking through our the brain structure that we have, and we realized that humans are not the only type of being who feels pain and pleasure and has a desire to live. So we realize that animals are also sentient, and the science backs this up. The University of Cambridge released the Declaration of Animal Sentience. And so we realize that these animals don't need to be mistreated or harmed unnecessarily. And so therefore we do not approve of doing that. I just want to make a mention real quick before we go any further that this Discord server has a general chat, text chat, and I've been posting in it sources to back up my claims about health and animal ethics and stuff, and I've just been banned by the moderator from posting any more of my sources
Chase,
in the general chat.
What?
Chase, I can explain that to you. You weren't posting just sources, you were posting GIFs and memes at a very high basis to the point that it was practically flooding the general chat. Like, please just focus on your discussion with Connan. You don't need to post things in the general chat. You shouldn't need to. Like
Okay,
nothing.
well, okay, I heard you, but I'd like to respond to that real quick. So,
Okay.
in addition to me posting my sources of my links to, health officials who are declaring that a vegan diet is nutritionally adequate, I am also posting pictures of animals to illustrate the points that I'm making, that these animals are sentient creatures, because apparently some people think that animals are not sentient creatures who care how they're treated, and I'm showing you clearly that a dog is cuddling with a pig here, and that there's no difference between these animals. So I would like to have my maybe we can discuss what kind of things I can post in here, but I would like to have my permission to post my sources at least.
Man, you don't need that, is what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
getting
No.
to the
I-
point
I'm-
of
No.
as you were posting it on such a frequent basis, it was getting to the point of practically being spam, is all I'm saying.
Okay,
Listen,
well, I
no
understand
one,
that you're saying,
Chase,
I understand
Chase,
that you're saying that, but at the same time, I need to be able to post my sources. If you want me to lay off on the memes and the pictures of animals, I can do that, but I need to be able to post my sources so I can cite my sources to back up my claims.
okay,
if I would
we
need
can,
sources, I will ask. I am perfectly happy to give you that animals are sentient, but
Okay, I still, this isn't just for you though. This is also for the viewing audience who needs to check my sources.
okay, listen, Chase, I
you are
can get
talking
you
to
off
me.
the approval queue. If you can lay off the memes and you just post sources when necessary, but be the last chance, I would say, that if it ends up turning into spam again, we're going to temporarily remove your ability to post on the general chat, and we won't prove it again until the end of the debate. Okay, man?
Okay, so I'll lay off on a bunch of pictures and stuff, and I'll mostly post links to my sources for actual data. There may be an occasional post of a video so that like you guys need to like know what we're talking about. So like when we just say like, oh, animals are killed in slaughterhouses, that means nothing until you actually see it happening.
Can I just suggest one more thing? If you want to post your sources, that's obviously fine. I mean, of course it is. But could you post them in VC text or VC links?
I can do that if you like.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. You've been given the ability to post again. So yeah, if you can just keep in VC links also, that should all be fine. Carry
Okay,
on.
so okay, thank you. I'll put it all in VC links from now on.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Is
okay,
the
so where
major
were
part
we?
of the debate over, and are we on to questions yet?
No, we are not even close to questions yet. Well, Chase, I kind of lost my train of thought because I believe that you should focus on this discussion because
Oh,
it will
I'm
not
very
be
focused, my friend. I am laser focused.
it will not be easy for you. So we let's track back a bit. So I will grant you that animals are sentient. I fully believe that and fully understand that. And I also, of course, believe that empathy is evolutionary. Did you ever consider why empathy evolved?
Yeah, we evolved as a social species and we realized that there are consequences to our actions. So we developed mirror neurons where we feel empathy for others, unless we're like born as a psychopath or we're traumatized at a young age to where our empathy is kind of beaten out of us.
Yes, of
We
course.
generally Yeah, we generally speaking have the ability to empathize with others, and we realize that if we start to harm other people, then that's going to have negative consequences. It's going to upset the people that we harmed. It's going to upset their friends and families, and then that they will be mad at us and will try to either kick our ass or put us in jail, things like this. And so we realize there are consequences for our actions, and also we realize that when we help others, they appreciate that and they respond in kind, and so they will be more likely to help us in return. So it benefits us and our society for us to behave ethically towards each other.
Uh, Actually, you just hit my point. Yes, that is absolutely true. Of course, so this is not empathy. That is what you just described was morality and law of mutual aid. But empathy developed for a few specific reasons. First, you are a mammal and you need to be attentive to the needs of your young. So that is the first reason why you have empathy. Second reason, it warns you of danger. So if you see, let's say, a monkey eat a poison berry and you see that monkey suffering, he falls off the tree or whatever, you will understand that he is suffering and you shouldn't do whatever happened to that uh, object of your empathy. And the third one is, we are social animal, uh, we need healthy group mates to survive, and that's why we have empathy towards them. Uh, if empathy doesn't serve one of those three, one of those three purposes, I believe that it is misplaced. What you described is absolutely right. That is how morality worked and how morality evolved. It evolved
Yeah,
because, let me speak, because it protects you from others and it protects others from you, because all of us have ability to hurt one another. And so morality is considered is dealing with others humans, decreasing your chance of survival and reproduction. That is the purpose which morality is concerned with. The increase of your likelihood to survive and reproduce comes from law of mutual aid. Those two are different because they work in different ways. Uh, uh, and that is exactly why animals are not part of morality, because they don't have ability to hurt us back.
okay. All right. So yeah, I agree to some degree of what you were saying about how empathy evolved in humans. I would say that we need to evolve our empathy. And the thing is to expand to other sentient beings. So we started back in the day, in ancient civilizations, like ancient humans started by caring about, the family. And then we expanded that circle of compassion to include the tribe. And then we expanded that to our different, like our whole country or our whole religion. And then we expanded that to other neighboring tribes because we realized that even though they're not part of our tribe, we can like trade and barter with them. And so it's mutually beneficial. And then we try to expand it to a global community, right? And so we have international law protecting human rights all the way across the board, stuff like this. And so I'm just saying that we already do expand our circle of compassion to animals. Most people, at least, do care about dogs and cats and certain other animals like dolphins and chimpanzees and elephants. And they support laws. Even animal eaters support laws protecting certain animals. And most meat eaters are against torturing the animals that they eat. And so yeah, I think like I just posted a video that I made that has 800,000 views in the VC links. And what you'll see is a bunch of meat eaters commenting that they had no idea that animals are being treated like this in factory farms and slaughterhouses, and that they are terribly upset about what is going on with these animals and that they're being treated this way, and that they, as consumers, have been supporting this cruelty, and that they're vowing to go vegan on the spot because they're not okay with this. And so I guess my question for you at this point would be, why do you think so many people who eat animals do have empathy for animals, even to the point where now they are stopping the oppression of animals? And why don't you have that?
Well, first of all, I believe that majority of people are first too soft. They are not exposed to the reality of the world, which is extremely violent. That is the first part. Second part is I don't believe that 99.9% of people ever actually uh, takes a step back and rationally thinks about their feelings, and especially not their moral stances. Uh, and yeah, that is basically why. As
Okay.
you see,
Yeah.
I am, and I would like to I would like to explain the circles that you mentioned. That is
Okay.
why I said,
Can I, before we move forward, can I ask just one question about what you had said?
sure.
Thank you. So the first thing you said, I think, is that people are unaware of what's happening to the animals inside the factory farms and the slaughterhouses, and that's why it seems like what you're saying is that that's why they're emotionally and psychologically detached and logically detached from this issue. And so that's part of what I'm doing, is trying to educate and motivate people about what's happening so that they can make an informed decision. So before going into like trying to ban meat,
That's not
I am
what I
trying
said.
to. I okay. Would you like to clarify?
I said that people are soft and they are not used to the violence and the roughness of the world in general. I never said anything about conditions of raising animals or about slaughterhouses. And I said the majority of people never take a step back and rationally think about their emotions, and especially that there's morality. That is what I said.
Okay, sorry for misinterpreting. Do you think that people should be educated about what's happening to the animals so that they can make an informed decision?
I don't think any knowledge is bad.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think knowing as many things as possible, like as a skeptic, I want to know as many true things as possible and not believe as many false things as possible. Yeah, so basically, I'm just trying to help people understand what's happening so that they can make an informed decision. And most people who see this footage are very upset with this, and they don't want to support it. And I find that very telling about the human condition and our ability to empathize, and that our sense of morality does naturally expand, for most people at least, does naturally expand to animals. It's not just limited to humans.
Well, I believe that that is untrue. How I came to my conclusions about morality is that I examined as many different cultures and traditions and moral views that were available to me, and that was quite a few. I did take quite a long time developing my philosophy, and other than few animals in some cultures that were considered or are considered sacred, animals were never part of morality other than as property or a resource. Only today's time and few religions of Indian subcontinents like Jainism, uh, animals have moral value, and those are exceptions rather than the rule. And as I said again, I believe that most people are shocked because most people are far removed from the violence in their everyday life, and they are not willing to accept violence as a fact of life.
Okay, so like again, I don't want to misinterpret you or strawman you. I'm just trying to get clarification on what your viewpoint is. Are you saying that because violence is a natural part of the world, that it's okay for us to contribute to that violence?
Can you prove that it is not right for us to do that?
Well, it sounded like you said earlier that we should not cause harm to humans if we don't need to. So
Eh,
just because violence happens to humans, does that mean that we should contribute to the violence against humans?
I said that we should not do violence against humans who are innocent. I did not
Right.
say that we should not do violence towards humans.
Yeah, yeah. I was basically talking about an innocent person who's just standing there minding their business, like in that first question I had asked. Okay, yeah, so like I just say that like in that same way that just because violence happens in the world to humans and to animals, that that's irrelevant to whether or not we should contribute to the suffering of humans or animals. If we don't need to, we shouldn't. I feel like there's already enough suffering in the world. I don't want to add to it.
Well, that is your personal feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And we establish laws to prevent people from hurting other people, even if they want to hurt people, because that's not your right to inflict unnecessary suffering onto somebody else who doesn't want to be victimized, right? So do you support laws protecting humans from being kicked or killed?
As long as laws are in agreement with morality, which I described, I am for them. And of course, I don't believe that any government can be moral because governments are not physical entities, so they are also amoral. But
Okay.
uh, laws which I don't have a problem with laws that follow morality evolutionary morality as I described it.
Okay, cool. So I think we agree there that the government should, like, we should have laws against kicking or killing a human who is not trying to hurt anybody, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then, I'm not trying to make an appeal to popularity, but I think there's a good reason that most people agree that there should be laws, at least most people in the country I live in America, that most people agree that there should be laws making it illegal to needlessly kick an innocent dog or to kill a dog.
Can
But
I
you disagree
explain
with
why
that.
is that? Can I?
Yeah, like,
Okay,
go ahead.
I will explain why people have stronger emotional reactions towards dogs and other animals. And that's beside the point that I believe that anything you do to a dog is amoral. It is because owning the dog in itself is evolutionary advantage. This is why dogs were first animals that were domesticated. And that is why we have stronger connections with the dog than with, let's say, a pig, for instance. I will explain further. So the dog gives you many evolutionary benefits which well complement your or human deficiencies. So they have more acute senses, they have higher running speed, they have better natural, quote unquote, natural weapons. Uh, they have similar amounts of stamina. So basically, the dog can guard, hunt, protect, alert, herd, do a lot of things that humans cannot do effectively. And because of that, uh, dogs and humans have a very, I don't want to say the word special, but they have special bond other than with other animals because it is how you use the animal. To use a dog, you need to have a good working relationship with the dog, and you have to also be attentive to the needs of that dog, so the dog can do his purpose. Also, I would like to add emotional support, but a lot of animals can do that, but that's not the main purpose for uh, domesticating dogs. And a cow can fulfill its purpose of being a food source only if it is milked or slaughtered. Same as pig, same as chicken, same as any other ordinarily eaten and killed animal. So that is why people, when you kill and hurt a dog, they have innate reaction, which is in fact not connected to morality, but to their inherent need to be close with a dog.
Okay, so I think I understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you're saying is that the reason that we have empathy for dogs is because we evolved side by side with dogs, and they serve a purpose for us. They give us companionship. They can do like work for us and stuff. And so we built a relationship over the generations with dogs, and we have this kind of social norm where hurting dogs is wrong, and that's how we're raised to think. But that other animals we're taught, have historically served a different purpose. And so we're just raised to believe that there's this drastic difference between these two animals. And then I'll add on that it seems like you're saying by extension that that we should ignore the similarities between those two animals, like a dog and a pig, that even though they both feel pain and they both want to live, that it may be rational for us to have empathy for dogs, but it would be irrational for us to have empathy for pigs. And even if we do have empathy for either of those animals, it's still okay in your view. It's amoral. It's not moral or immoral. It has nothing to do with morality. If we kick the dog or the pig, it's totally fine, and there should be no laws protecting animals from being beaten and abused, right?
Yes, basically, but let me clarify further. So both you and I were a bit long sentences, so I don't want to have a little details be mistrued for other side. So both, let's say just cow and dog, for comparison. Both cow and a dog are a resource necessary, or was at one point necessary for evolution, for you to survive and procreate. The dog needed to be behaved a certain way so it could be exploited as a resource, and cow needed to be treated a different way. That's the first one. And there is of I there is a reason to have empathy towards the cow. If you see the cow is sick, if you need that resource to survive, you will call the vet. That it is, of course, there is need there is purpose in having empathy towards that because it aids your survival. It does not aid your survival to have empathy toward the resource that you will use by killing it.
Okay, so are you saying that we should only have empathy for animals to the extent that it helps us?
Yes, that is the evolutionary purpose of empathy, to aid you.
Okay, so I guess I just feel that like we should have empathy for others even if it doesn't help us. Like so long as our survival isn't at stake and you agreed that we don't need to eat animal products to be healthy, I think that if we don't need to cause harm to these beings, then we should respect them. But I guess I have a question. Can we do another thought experiment to
Sure.
see? Okay, thanks. I just want to understand more about your moral system. So, let's imagine a hypothetical about aliens. Okay, I don't know if aliens exist, but let's imagine that some aliens exist, and we come across these aliens, and let's say that these aliens, they are not human. They do not have human DNA, but they look just like us, and they talk just like us, and their brain functioning is just like us. Their intelligence level just like us. They have friends and families that they care about, and they're not trying to hurt us. But they're not human. Would you say that it is amoral to torture and kill those aliens because they're not human? Or would it be immoral or moral even to torture and kill these aliens?
Okay, so there are few things. If they look and they are exactly like us, then they would have exactly the same DNA. But that's
No, no,
beside
no,
the
no,
point.
no.
Okay, that's beside the point. Let me answer like this. Uh, if those aliens would extend morality towards us, I don't see any reason not to extend their morality towards them, because by what you said, we would be about on the same power level, and we would need the protection of morality from each other. Let's say, okay, now let me go a bit further to explain my alien position. Let's say a Superman comes here. We cannot harm Superman. Superman has no moral obligation towards us. He can do to us whatever he likes. Whatever he does to us is completely amoral. Let's say we meet, I don't know, Vulcans. Vulcans are comparatively the same power level as us, so morality would have purpose. And let's say we meet some, I don't know, alien pig. There is no need to extend morality to alien pig, because alien pig is on a lower power level than us. So we don't need
Okay.
protection of morality from the pig, alien pig. Sorry.
Okay, I appreciate your input. I think I understand where you're coming from. So it sounds like you're subscribing to the philosophy of might makes right, that whoever is strongest and smartest and able to harm those who are below them is therefore justified in harming those who are below them. So if I'm stronger or smarter than somebody, I can do with them what I please. Is that right?
That's not what I said.
Okay, so it sounded like you were saying that aliens who are stronger and smarter than us, like the Superman, if they come to Earth, it's not immoral for them to torture us, to kill us, to chop up our babies, even if they don't have to do this, because they could, like, I like to give this thought experiment of, like, imagine the aliens exist and they come to Earth and they're stronger and smarter than us, and they start to treat us the way that we've been treating animals on factory farms and slaughterhouses. So they put us in these cages and they hear us scream, but they don't care. They chop up our babies and eat our babies. They eat us. And we're screaming out the whole time for justice, right? We're screaming for mercy. We're begging. We desperately are trying to get out of our cages. We want liberty, just like these animals scream in fear and pain, and they want their freedom, right? But the aliens don't have to do this. They could eat, like alien plants or even plants that we have here on Earth. But they're choosing to do this just because they like the taste of our murdered bodies. But the funny thing is that there's a small minority of those aliens are vegan aliens. And they're telling the other aliens, they're saying, hey, guys, why are you doing this to the humans? Like, just be nice to the humans. It doesn't matter that they're not part of our group, that they weren't born as aliens. Nobody gets to choose how they're born, and there's nothing wrong with being different. Let's just be nice to the humans. They're sentient beings. They feel pain and pleasure. They want to live. They've got brains and nervous systems. We don't need to treat them like this. We can just eat plants, But the aliens, the regular aliens, the that are eating the humans, the meat-eating aliens, are laughing at the vegan aliens, saying, why do you care about these stupid humans, right? They're not part of our group. They don't matter. Yeah, so this is just speciesism. So I don't understand why we don't just say, hey, look, if we don't need to cause harm to another individual, maybe we shouldn't. It doesn't matter that they're a different color than us, a different sex than us, different sexual orientation, a different religion, they're from a different country, they're not as smart as us, maybe they're a mentally disabled person. So what? They're not as smart as us. Big deal. They can't reciprocate morality to us
Okay,
because they're not.
you are jumping.
Hold on.
You are jumping on
Just
different topics.
Okay, I understand, but let me just finish up my sentence here so that you understand where I'm coming from. Okay, just because like a mentally disabled adult is not as smart as us and they can't reciprocate morality doesn't mean that we have the right to stab them. All right, and so just because somebody's different or a different species, these are arbitrary factors. These are not what is relevant when we're determining morality. What matters is not can they rationalize and can they talk, but can they suffer?
Okay, you were jumping on many other bandwagons, so let's return to the aliens and we can discuss mentally disabled after that. So I don't see any reason why aliens should be concerned with our opinions. If they don't need protection of morality from us, why should they extend their morality to us? There is no reason
Well,
for them to do that.
wouldn't you want them to, though, if you were the victim? If you were being tortured by an alien, wouldn't you hope that they would just be nice to you?
My wants are irrelevant.
Okay.
You
I personally
understand?
would be I would be protesting for justice. I would be saying, "Hey, look, I'm an innocent victim. I wasn't trying to hurt you, Mr. Alien. How about you just like put down the knife?"
But you understand that there is no reason for alien to take your wants into consideration because your
Yeah,
wants are irrelevant.
but it's not, because like I think that the aliens would evolve as and become better aliens, more rational, more empathetic, more moral aliens if they were to expand their moral consideration to include humans. Just like we would evolve if we as people, as our character, if we were to think more critically about the needs and desires of these innocent animals who we are brutalizing for no good reason, if we were to just expand compassion to them, we would grow.
When you say evolved, I hope you don't mean literally because there will be no evolutionary advantage to expanding morality or any consideration towards animals other
Well, I
than
would
as
argue with that. I would argue with that if that's okay. Like for one, just in the sense of like, I think that we are doing ourselves a disservice by not recognizing that animals are sentient and therefore worthy of rights, okay? And that it's causing unnecessary suffering, and that is by definition, like, well, I mean, it depends on your moral system, but by my moral system, that's immoral. And also though, like the environmental aspects, because we treat animals this way, because we raise them for food, we are destroying our own environment, which does threaten our survival. So, like the USDA said, it takes 16
So you were cut off. I don't know what happened.
Does he need to do a mic check? Chase, you are still in the room.
Chase, disconnect and reconnect, please. Maybe that will fix the problem.
Chase is in the room. Chase, mic check. Just say anything. Seems like we lost Chase momentarily. I'm sure he'll be back in just.
Just give him a second.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he'll be back in just a moment or two. Sometimes happens with Discord. Can be annoying. It's just wait until he comes back.
Chase, if you hear us, disconnect and reconnect. That usually solves the problem.
Yeah, we'll wait for him.
Yeah, if he doesn't come back or he isn't able to connect, we can move on to the Q&A. But hopefully he'll be able to talk again.
Yeah, here he is. I just gotta unmute him because when you leave and rejoin. Chase, mic check for you,
Hello?
please, sir.
Okay, you're back.
Hey, I got cut off, I think. What was the last thing you heard me say?
I honestly don't remember. I think that you were going about environmentalism.
Yeah, so like the United Nations reported that the greenhouse gases coming from raising animals is more than the entire transportation sector, which includes all cars, trucks, trains, planes, and ships. National Geographic reported that a vegan diet saves 600 gallons of water per day per person because we have to water all the crops that we feed to the animals, and we have to give water to the animals to drink. The University of Oxford reported that raising animals takes up 75% of our farmland, and the USDA says it takes 16 pounds of grain to make 1 pound of beef. So animal agriculture is so resource intensive that it's destroying our environment. And so if we do care about our own survival, then it behooves us to be kind to animals and stop raising and slaughtering them. And I'll post all that in the VC links, all that data.
To my understanding, it is not just animal agriculture. The whole of agriculture produces between 24 and 37% of greenhouse emissions. The environmental impact of humanity is from 24 to 37% from agriculture as a whole. So, but that also goes into land use and, as you said, water use and so on and so on. Yes, I would not. I think that only a fool would say that animal doesn't produce more pollution than that meat eating doesn't produce more pollution than veganism. But I would
Well,
argue that it is almost impossible to, because of externalization of costs, it is impossible to say how much individual is allowed to pollute.
well, so the scientists, and you can, cite your sources if you like. It would be appreciated if you have some data to back up your claims. But the science is saying that the three best things that any individual human can do to reduce their environmental impact, the three things is to have fewer children, and to adopt a plant-based diet, and to not fly on airplanes as much. So those are the three main things that we can do.
Okay, so I don't fly, I don't have children, I can then eat meat. I don't need to do all three.
Well, okay, so if we want to universalize this though, and again, if you want to like make the strongest impact that you can to save the environment, to save yourself and your future generations, and I don't have kids either, but nevertheless, other people do have children, and I care about those children, not just like my own kids. I care about future generations because, but yeah, that should be obvious why, I think. But yeah, so like if you want to like actually help, then yeah, like don't have kids, adopt if you want to have kids. That would be my recommendation. And then yeah, don't fly on planes if you don't need to, maybe sometimes you got to or whatever, and that's fine. I think just try not to do it all the time. Don't have a private jet and stuff like that.
Right?
We're trying to
In
do what
that
we can,
case,
but
no.
excuse me, just to finish my sentence if I could. But also there's it's very easy to go on a plant-based diet in most countries, and why would we cause all this environmental devastation if we don't need to?
Well, let's go. Let's go. We can go deeper into conversation about ecology. So I would say that cows produce the most pollution. That is clear. A kilogram of beef produces about 60 kilograms of gas emission gases, which is a lot. I won't argue with that. But for instance, poultry and poultry produces. I can source it. I can link source. Just a second.
Sure. While you're doing that, I would just say that, like, no matter which animal we're specifically talking about, it's clear that all of these animals have to eat food day after day, month after month, until they reach slaughter weight. And so the amount, whether it's a cow where it's a 16-to-1 ratio of plants to create 1 pound of beef, okay, uh, the same kind of thing applies with pigs or lambs or chickens. It may not be the whole 16-to-1 ratio, but it's still going to be like a 3-to-1 ratio or a 6-to-1 ratio because it's just so resource intensive. That's just an inescapable fact that
Yes, but
feeding
also
animals
a
feeding
nutrient.
animals day after day is going to take more plants than if we just ate the plants directly.
Yes, but it would be also stupid to say that a nutritive value of kilogram of wheat is same as kilogram of chicken. That is not the same. That is not the same nutritional value.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it doesn't have to be wheat though. It can be beans, potatoes, rice, pasta, fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, beans, bread. We make vegan protein, vegan burgers, vegan sausage that
yes, yes.
have as
I was not able to find how much kilograms of whatever ingredients are required to make 1 kilogram of
yeah,
quote unquote vegan meat, but that's beside the point. So let us examine few items. So palm oil produces 8 kilograms of gas house emissions. Coffee produces 17 kilograms. Rice produces 4 kilograms, which is more than fish, wild caught fish, which only produces 3 kilograms, and milk, which produces also 3 kilograms. Same as, for instance, sugar cane. And of course, we can go further down. The majority of uh, plants food produce less than around one or less than 1 kilogram. But for instance, rice, which is a staple in most vegan diets, produces the same amount of, or actually more greenhouse emission gases than wild caught fish or milk.
okay. So like a Beyond Burger, which is a vegan burger made out of plants, compared to a beef burger, and I'm going to post this picture in the VC links in just a second here. A Beyond Burger uses 99% less water, 93% less land, 90% fewer greenhouse gas emissions, and requires 46% less energy to create. And yet it has the same amount of protein, 20 grams of protein, that a regular beef burger would have. but it also has 0 cholesterol. Okay, so the point I'm making here is that we can get all the nutrients that we need in a plant-based diet, and it requires far less resources. So I don't see
Actually,
why we
I
would.
would like to see if you could provide, just 99% less water doesn't really tell me anything. I would like to see uh, the concrete amount, but uh, I think that, well, first it would be, uh, I don't think that it would be beneficial to our first main topic a lot, because as we agreed, there is you cannot set the certain level of pollution that person is allowed to create, and I don't believe that that banning meat would be the best way to go about it. I believe that if you are really adamant about reducing gas house emission gases, that you should the most fair and efficient way to proceed with that would be to implement economy-wide uh, tax on greenhouse emission.
Right.
But why not just
Here's what we're gonna do. If you both want to make a closing statement on like that particular topic, that's great. Then we're gonna have to move to the Q&A because I mean, like you guys can discuss for as long as you want, but as you know, this is being recorded, so I would like to close off the recording at some point. I can't stay awake for the next like 500 hours or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah,
That's fine.
fair enough. And I
It was-
want
I
to
think,
thank you both for turning up. I want to thank you, Chase, and thank you, Conan. But have some closing statements. Shall we say a couple of minutes each? Does that sound fair?
Okay, sure. And yeah, I don't really feel the need to talk more about like the environment or the health. We can maybe end on some of the ethics or some of the legality of banning meat, and talk maybe about like, I think we've talked about like should we or should we not ban meat, but maybe if you want, the one thing we haven't addressed is how would vegans practically go about banning meat. I don't know if that's something you want to talk about, but I'll give
I,
you 2 minutes. Go for it, and then I'll wrap up with 2 minutes.
yeah, I would like
There
to
is also a
discuss that.
Q&A with like there's quite a lot of questions
Yeah,
piling up.
I
But yes,
understand, but
Conan, go ahead. It's your turn.
the debate, actually, the debate was rather short, only an hour. So I believe that we should be given at least a half an hour more. Uh, and I would like to discuss the main topic of today's discussion, so legalization of meat. Oh, sorry, banning of meat. So, if I would like to go for, I would like to Chase to uh, have go on with his proposal.
Well, I don't think that's fair to Chase, to be honest. Like he has been discussing his side of like he's been arguing for his position the whole time, and we do need to get to Q&A. There's like a shitload of questions, dude.
Oh, okay. Probably some of those questions will come up during the Q&A. If you insist, then okay.
Well, all I want to
Well,
do is I want to make sure that everybody gets to ask their questions before I stop the recording. I mean, you can do whatever the fuck you want afterwards. You can talk for as long as you want. You can talk all night. Doesn't bother me.
sure. Yeah. So maybe if you like, Conan, I can talk for 2 minutes about how vegans would go about making meat illegal, and then you can respond to that. Does that sound good? And then we'll go to Q&A.
Okay, let's do that as our closing statements.
Yeah, that sounds good to you?
Yes, let's do that. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'll speak for about 2 minutes or so. The moderator can let me know when my 2 minutes is up. Okay,
We're
so
not
yeah,
gonna
just like
time
with any
you accurately. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. All right, so yeah, we look at past social justice movements and we just echo the forms of activism they used to engage in our movement. Okay, so we look at the women's right to vote movement. We look at the abolition of slavery or the civil rights movement, where they fought to desegregate the restaurants and the buses and the school system so that white and black children and citizens in general could all be in the same area, despite the majority white opinion that blacks should not be allowed in these areas. We look at the gay rights movement and how it has increased significantly over just a couple of decades, and we got the right to marry. Same-sex marriage. Okay, so what we see is, and I'm posting a bit in the VC links. So what we see is a small group of activists going against the norms, boldly and unapologetically demanding justice, not asking, not begging for scraps of justice, but demanding what is right by the victims. And we ideally, vegans, what we're trying to do right now is trying to like educate and motivate people to just be nice to animals of your own volition. Like it's a very simple thing to do. So we've covered a lot of that in this debate. But the sheer fact of the matter is that if you do not join us, we are taking over. Whether you like it or not, we are going to shut down every slaughterhouse and we are going to liberate every animal, because you do not have the right to kick your dog. You do not have the right to stab your dog. And there's no legitimate difference between a dog and a pig. And so you do not have the right to kick or stab a dog. We are taking away that supremacy, that human supremacy, that speciesism. This brutality is going to end. Give it 20 or 30 years, okay? We're replacing these products on the shelves with plant-based vegan meats and soy milk and coconut milk and all this stuff. But yeah, so what we can do is use a combination of individual consumer change of boycotting these products, a mass economic boycott, in conjunction with disruptive protests that challenge the social norms and get media attention about the issue and convey the severity of the situation. And we can also lobby politicians and introduce new bills and legislation to get rights for these victims who have been way too long oppressed. So if we look at the Montgomery bus boycott, inspired by the solo protest by Rosa Parks during the civil rights movement in 1956, which deprived the government in Alabama of hundreds of thousands of dollars that it had been making from selling bus tickets, which is the equivalent of millions of dollars today. 40,000 activists and everyday people chose to carpool, walk, or ride a bike, and this forced the city transit system into serious economic distress. This activism gained international media coverage, and after 381 days of boycotting, the Supreme Court ruled that the racial segregation in Alabama's buses was unconstitutional. So collective consumer boycotts can work in connection with mass protests and political lobbying to create widespread social change and new laws. So whether or not you want to beat your wife, we're making it illegal. Whether or not you want to beat an animal or kill them, we're making it illegal.
Okay, that's your closing statement. Thank you very much for that, Conan. Your closing statement, and then we will be moving to Q&A.
All the social movements that my interlocutors mentioned were, of course, justified because they were undoing the moral injustices, uh, because each of those groups are part of morality. They evolved morality and they were considered part of it. And there is no reason for you, if you want not to stab or kick or whatever you do want for your dog, other than you will lose a dog. There is no reason to make meat illegal. It doesn't have any of the five uh, reasons for which laws are made. There is no reason for you to limit your freedom for no benefit. And I would encourage each and every one of you, if somebody wants to curb your liberty to fight back. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for your closing statement too. Right, now we are open for Q&A. You have two choices as per always in this server. You can either type your question in VC text channel and somebody will read it out for you, or you can just say, hey, look, I'd like to be unmuted so that I can ask it myself. Let's have a look. I think at least 3 people wanted to be unmuted.
I've unmuted Mr. Cuddles.
Yeah.
He requested to be unmuted before. Also, we have neurotics question that needs to be read.
Go ahead, man. Take over.
All right. Here, let me just find it real quick. It was higher up in the Why doesn't Cuddles ask a question if he's ready, or someone else can ask their question while I find neurotics? Because it's
I'll unmute Mr. Cuddles. He probably has a question. Right. There you go. Mr. Cuddles, you can speak if you want to. Mr. Cuddles, you're muted at your end.
Oh, my bad. Sorry about that.
It's alright. Welcome.
I just wanted to ask Chase a question. I see we're both commented, so I think there's already a line of agreement. But I would say that, like, to try to not take up too much time, it seems that a lot of disagreements morally came to with like have to do with like a reduction of suffering. So I was actually curious, like, did you consider yourself like a negative utilitarian? Because from what I've gathered, it seems that one, you have like a hedonistic conception of well-being where it's like pleasure is morally good, suffering is morally bad. And it seems that you're trying to like approach something where we just reduce as much suffering as possible. So I was sort of just curious about that.
Sure, that's a good question. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my normative ethical theory is. Some competing ones would be, like you said, utilitarianism or deontology or threshold deontology, which is like a combination of the two. I think, and I'm open to, learning more about what would be the best system, but basically I try to maximize well-being and minimize suffering while respecting individual rights as much as possible. So I think that's like threshold deontology. Trying to help trying to help as many humans and animals as possible without hurting any animals or humans in the process. But that's, like I crush insects just walking across the yard. So like we can't be perfect. And the definition of veganism is to reduce or eliminate exploitation and cruelty to animals as far as practical and possible. So like we realize that, the crops that are growing for vegans to eat, or for meat eaters who are eating plant products also, like there are animal deaths in the production of those crops. So vegans are not perfect. Like there's insects that get killed. There may be some rodents that get run over by a combine harvester to make the plants that vegans eat. And we find this unfortunate, and we're trying to create a new agriculture system wherein that does not happen. But right now we got to do what we can. We have to eat plants in order to survive, but we don't have to eat animals. And so I think I posted already about vertical farming. So vertical farming is indoor farming, like a skyscraper that goes up into the air and the plants are stacked on top of each other. And this is all indoor. And so what this means is no pesticide required because insects can't get inside. And of course, there would be no rodents inside. So no rodents would die from combine harvesters. And this is also 95% less water usage than traditional plant agriculture. And these indoor farms these vertical farms can be set up in parts of the world where the soil is depleted, where like you can't grow plants. Well, you can inside these buildings. And so, we want to expand those to all over the world to make it so not just for the animals' sake, but for people as well, so that they have easier access to plant foods and for the betterment of the environment.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Because honestly, the only reason I ask is because I think this will really help explain disagreement. Like, if you're wondering why don't people hold this position, it just might be because they don't hold reduction of suffering as a principle. But overall, that's a great answer, though. I thank you for that.
Sure, thanks.
Superb. Moving on to the next question. Zoom, are you keeping up with questions?
Yeah, I am. I found Neurotic's question, so I can just read that out real quick. Unless I don't really FB. That's his name is a little complicated, wants to speak. The first two letters of his name are FB.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
sorry,
name
man.
is very long.
Yeah.
We'll change it.
All right.
Chess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know why you think it's realistic. You said the whole world will be vegan in like 20 to 30 years.
Okay, yeah, so specifically I'm talking about first world nations. Like I'm not trying to focus on third world countries where they're like really struggling and they ain't even got no grocery stores around and stuff like that. I understand that they're in a hard spot. But for places like America, I was essentially talking about like I think that animal agriculture will be eliminated in 20 or 30 years. In America and other first world nations. So not necessarily globally. I don't know how long that would take or if that'll ever happen. But I do see extreme progress happening. I could be wrong about the 20 to 30 years. Maybe it'll be sooner. Maybe it'll be a little bit longer. Maybe it'll never happen. I can't say for sure. But what I'm doing is I'm looking at past social justice movements and seeing that once they started, like where they started with just a few activists going against against the grain of the mass majority of the population, and that because of their uncompromising efforts, they started to turn the tables, and then a tipping point was reached much sooner than anybody thought. People used to say, "Oh, you'll never get rid of slavery. People make too much money off of owning slaves. It's this giant industry. Our whole economics is based on this. The whole country would fall apart if we got rid of this system." And yet it happened, and it happened for ethical reasons. And same thing with the women's right to vote. Men were avidly against it. A lot of women didn't even want the right to vote because of internalized sexism, where they thought that they shouldn't even have that right, or that they thought it could never be accomplished. But a few strong women said, no, 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 we're going to make this happen. And they did. And same with the civil rights movement. I posted also a picture that like the majority of people in America were against the Civil Rights Act right before it passed in 1964, and yet it passed. And racism is not done in America. There's still a lot to be done there, but we've made significant progress. So that's what I'm basing it off of. And I see the tides changing with animal rights. Most people are against cruelty to animals, and most people are coming to the realization that cutting off an animal's head is an act of cruelty.
Well, I just want to say two things here. You can get the last word in there if you want, but one of the things would be where you said you're not sure. It might be more than 30 years. That means you just don't know. So trying to be like charitable or whatever, I would just not make the claim in the actual debate that people are gonna go vegan in like 30 years or whatever.
Okay, you might have a point there. Like I'm basically trying to just instill the idea that like this can happen and this can happen much sooner than we think. And this happened with the gay rights movement in the 80s. There was a guy who made a prediction that same-sex marriage would become legalized within 30 years, and it did happen. But people laughed at him. Even his fellow gay people were like, "That'll never happen. Sure, we want it to, but there's no way." But things change pretty quick once the ball starts rolling.
Um, well, I'm not. I don't want to take a lot of time here, but just one more thing. I don't think it happened that quickly, especially with animal agriculture. I don't think it's gonna happen that quickly. I would just
Okay,
say
well,
I would just reject it because we already have examples where slavery did actually go on for quite a long time. I mean,
sure.
it didn't end like that.
Yeah, that's true. But nevertheless, like if we care about our environment, there is a need for us to abolish animal agriculture as soon as possible.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? You can be unmuted. Just give us a ping, quick ping, and we'll unmute you. If not, then we will shut down this discussion. Tune the toaster. Alright, you don't want to speak. Okay, Tune the toaster. Ask a question real quick then, because I don't want to take up too much of these debaters' time.
He asked, how are you planning to close all barns and slaughterhouses? Are you just going to bully the owner into closing the shop if the owner doesn't want to close?
Okay, yeah, so good question. So the practical application of this is that first of all, like before we get to legislation, we have to build up enough support for the animal rights movement. And one way that that's happening is through vegans doing education and motivation to help consumers change their consumer choices. And so what we're seeing right now is an increase in vegan products being made and distributed, and that makes veganism more popular and accessible and profitable. And so as the number of vegans and vegetarians and people who are flexitarians who are eating animal products sometimes but are eating more plant-based foods, what's going to happen is through supply and demand, uh, more vegan products are going to be made and sold, and fewer animal products are going to be made and sold. And so the scales are going to start to tip, and then we're going to whatever, once we have enough vegans or anybody in general, like I guess you don't have to be a vegan to support banning meat, but most of the people who support outlawing slaughterhouses are vegans. So once we have enough people in support of that movement, we are going to change the law so that whoever is left will be dragged kicking and screaming into the future where animals are not needlessly tortured and killed. Just like how with the civil rights movement, there were a whole bunch of racists who were like, nope, we're never going to desegregate the schools, and they got left in the dust. So yeah, the oppressor is not